Hey, what is going on everyone? In today's video, I want to give some tips on what you can do to prepare for the reset and the next season of Once Human. Now there are still a lot of specifics that we don't know, including things about Eternaland, the reset itself, and the next season, but I'll do my best with the information that we currently have. I'll also include any sources that I have in the description down below if you're interested. Also, really quickly, I would like to thank the research team that I have in my Discord that helped me out with this video. I've put their links in the description down below if you do want to support them. Also, big thanks to the Once Human Reddit community for helping provide some extra insights on what they think is important to prepare for the next season. And of course, if this video ends up helping you out, definitely drop a like and subscribe down below to help support the channel. And before we get into the more specific things that you should be focusing on, I think we should lay a little bit of groundwork and talk about season lengths, season transfers, Eternaland, and what we know about the next season. Regarding the next season of Once Human, we don't really know a lot of information about it. I'm on the Once Human website right here, and on the home page it has a little bit of information about the next season. You can see that there is a section for the new PvP scenario that is supposed to be coming in September, and it says here that they will introduce a unique breed of deviations known as prism deviations in this new scenario. Now I'm unsure if this will also be in the PvE scenario because it's only mentioning it for the PvP one here, but just something to keep in mind. Now when we go over to the PvE scenario, you can see that we will be exploring the desolate eastern wilderness to the frigid northern mountains. New adversaries, allies, and even more abhorrent deviants await. So this one looks like we're going to be exploring the northern part of the map. We're already in the eastern part of the map for this current season and scenario, so it looks like we're going to be going to the mountain area that we have not been able to explore before. Also, for the PvE scenario, it does not actually have an expected date. It just says coming soon, but when we look at the PvP scenario, it says September, so I'm unsure if these will be releasing at the same time. Now let's talk about the length of the season. So from what we know, the two existing scenarios, Manabus for PvE servers and Evolution's Call for PvP servers, they last 6 weeks. However, since there are servers that opened at different times, it's a little unclear what happens with the newer servers come reset time. For example, if I look at the server list here for the Manabus PvE servers, you can see that there are a list of new servers that just launched recently. They're actually only on day 2. But if I go ahead and take a look at the servers that I am currently on, this is my main server right here. I'm on day 27 of this server because I joined it on launch day. So once my server hits the 6-week mark and resets, do I no longer have access to it? Will I only be able to play in Eternaland while I wait for the other servers to catch up to the 6-week mark? Or will some of the newer servers simply just not reach the 6-week mark before the reset? Now obviously it is a little unfair if newer servers aren't even able to hit that 6-week mark and experience all the phases on their server, but personally I also don't want to spend weeks in Eternaland waiting for those servers to catch up. So hopefully for the next season, server timelines are all in sync. I just think it's really better for community engagement and it just makes it less confusing overall. Also, it is important to note that the developers have stated in a recent FAQ that not all scenarios will be 6 weeks long. Future scenarios and seasons may have longer or shorter durations, and some scenarios may even be permanent in the future. So I think after this first reset, we'll have a better idea of how this actually works in the game, but right now we are working on limited information, so just keep that in mind for the rest of the video. Now in terms of what will carry and won't carry over to the next season, Starry Studio has provided an in-game menu of what types of items will transfer to the next season, what will automatically be sent to the Eternaland Depot, and we'll talk about Eternaland in just a second, and what things won't be carried to the next season. So if you're in your game, you can click escape, go up to the top right where your scenario is, click on Season Info and you will see the Season Transfer Rules tab. There are three main sections here. You have this first section of these things that will be inherited to the new season, things that will be teleported to Eternaland, and then on the bottom here you can see things that will be wiped and won't be available in the next season. However, the developers have also talked about this in a recent FAQ, and it has a little bit more of information in there. So let's take a quick look at that. So you can see the following in-game content will be retained no matter how the seasons and servers change. So we have important currency such as Starcrom, Christian, Mitsuko's Mark, Stellar Planula, and Sproutlets, gear blueprints and their stars, blueprint fragments, weapon accessories and mods, furniture formulas except those gained through your memetics, cosmetics, expressions and poses, name cards and more, your house blueprints, and it says after a house blueprint is saved, you can reconstruct the building at any time. If advanced materials are not available, basic materials will be used instead. So for example, if I don't have stone unlocked yet, if I go to build this, it will build it in wood. Then the main story and side story task progress, and it says for the tasks that you've already completed, you can accept more streamlined versions of them in the new season, but still get all the rewards. I'm not 100% sure of what that means. I don't know if that means we can just go claim rewards immediately, or if there will just be shortened versions of those tasks. We'll just have to wait and see. And then the last thing here is your friends list will fully carry over, and it says you can check which players joined your warband in the previous seasons and then add them to your friends list. Now for the second part here, they talk about things that will be carried over to the Eternaland Depot. So it says the following content and resources will only be partially carried over when you decide to enter a new season and start a new journey. Essential resources like materials, medicine, and ammunition can be carried over into a new season based on item transferring rules, and we'll talk about in just a moment. And this is so you can progress faster in the new season. Also, it does say in-game that weapons and armor will also be transferred over. I'm not really sure why it doesn't mention this in the FAQ, but if we actually go into the game here and I head back up to the season info tab, you can see that it says these will be teleported to Eternaland, and it says weapons and armor that you have in your inventory. Also, if we look at the bottom part here to see what is wiped, it says content and data not mentioned above, such as character levels, energy links, map and settlement exploration progress, and season goal progress will not be inherited. So the reason, for example, that it says that furniture formulas from your memetics will not be carried over, I believe is because energy links and your character level will be reset, so you have to re-unlock those furniture items from your memetics. But of course, your furniture formulas that you've already learned that are in your build menu, you will keep those for the next season. And when it says that materials will be transferred over, we still don't have full clarity on what types of materials will be transferred. There's a lot of things in the game that are considered materials. So if we go ahead and look at acid, for example, this is something that I'm pretty confident will be able to be transferred to the next season. But if we take a look at controllers here, even though these are bound to your character, I have seen a lot of people saying that controllers will not transfer over to the next season. So it's still yet to be seen in my eyes of what certain things can be transferred to the next season regarding materials. Now, I mentioned Eternaland earlier, and one thing I just want to bring up here really quickly is if you go into your inventory, you'll notice that there is another tab in the bottom right of your backpack. This is your space-time backpack, is what they call it. Basically, it's your backpack within Eternaland. And if you actually go to export your resources here, you can also access this menu, by the way, if you just hit escape, click on Eternaland in the top right, and then click on shop order. You can get right back to this export resources tab. You can see everything that you are able to send over to the new server. Now, obviously, we aren't at that point in the season yet, but the way that this basically will work is you can see send to season server with my server name here, and there's 0 out of 20,000. So what this is, these are called material points. And if we go ahead and hover over this, you can see that it says at the start of a new season, you will receive a certain amount of material points that can be used to transfer your supplies on Eternaland to the new season. Different supplies require varying amounts of material points for the transfer, and please note that material points cannot be carried over to the next season, so it's important to make your choices carefully. So you will be able to transfer over an unlimited amount of items to Eternaland, but when you actually start a new season and you want to withdraw things from Eternaland, it's going to be limited by however many material points you have. And it looks like everyone will start with 20,000 material points. I guess it's yet to be seen if this number will change. And as it said, certain items might be worth more material points than others. So for example, if I wanted to transfer a weapon, that might cost 10,000 material points. I'm just making up a number here. But if I wanted to transfer over something like berries, that might only cost 10 material points. And also there are different tabs here of things that you can transfer from Eternaland to your main server. And obviously there is a deviations tab here. Now I would take this with a grain of salt, as we're not 100% sure if these are actually all the categories that you'll be able to transfer items from. But I know it's been a big question of whether deviations will transfer to the next season. And to me, this is the game hinting that yes, it will be possible, but again, I would just take this with a grain of salt. And then even if you head over to your island shop here and you click on the sell tab, you can see everything that you're able to sell in Eternaland for Astral Sand. So you can even see that deviations are here in this list, so you can sell them for Astral Sand if you choose to. But this is also just another hint, I think, that deviations can exist in Eternaland and that we can use them in future seasons. But again, take that with a grain of salt. But you'll also notice that there are no controllers here. Anything that is bound to your character with that little chain link icon is not present here. So I would imagine that controllers specifically cannot be carried over to the next season. But again, not 100% sure on that. I wish we had more information on it, but we just don't at this moment. All right, so now that we've laid some of the groundwork there, and sorry it took a little bit to get through that, I just thought it was important to mention all that information before we actually get into the things that I think you should do to prepare for the next season. So first off here, our first category is going to be base-related things that I think you should do. So the first thing I would recommend that you do is head to your Eternaland Island and go ahead and open up your regular backpack there. So it's going to automatically open up your space-time backpack while you're here, but choose your regular backpack, head to the construction tab, and you'll see all of these single-use furniture items that you have. Now, as we saw earlier, furniture formulas will transfer to the next season, but it didn't say anything about these single-use furniture items. So what I would recommend is going to your Eternaland Island and placing all of these down at your island just so that you have them in Eternaland and that they won't get wiped. So for example, if I was going to place this American coffee table down, you can see in the top left it says I own one of these, so that means this is a single-use item. And if I just place it there, I'm able to place it right in Eternaland, and now I know it will always be here and it will not get wiped. I would also recommend going to your main base in your world, hitting B, and then right-clicking to go to your build menu and choosing House Blueprint, saving your base as a blueprint so that you can place it in Eternaland. So what you can do here, and you can see I already have my main base saved, and this is actually what I built right here. I still need to work on skinning it because now it just looks all like wood. But if you are in the main server, you can click on Add Blueprint here, and then you can either choose to save all, so that's going to save everything in your territory, or just save a single building. I recommend saving all here, so click that. You're able to give it a name, you're able to tag it in a particular way if you would like to, and then you can give it some notes here as well. And then when you go ahead and place this at your Eternaland Island, you'll be able to have your main base in Eternaland. And then, of course, for the next season, you'll also be able to place that house blueprint down so that you don't need to rebuild your base from scratch. And of course, to maximize your Starcrom output, you should be doing your weekly purifications at your base or at a Hive member's base. You can see I'm at 0 out of 40 right here, so I need to place 40 cortexes in here. And just a tip about this, for example, I do this at a Hive member's base actually every single week. And even if that Hive member has maxed out their weekly purifications, it will still drop Starcrom for me. The trick is that you need to drop your cortexes for that Hive member to place in the Stardust Resonator filter, because the owner of the territory is the only one that can access the Stardust Resonator filter. So just as a tip there, you can do this at Hive members' bases, even if they've already hit the weekly purification limit, and then vice versa. If you've already hit the limit, but you have a Hive member that wants to use your base for purifications, they can go ahead and do that by giving you the cortexes. You then place them in the purification unit right here. and then you can go ahead and start that. The difference is if you're already at the purification limit, you won't get any star chrom, but if they're not at the purification limit, they will get star chrom. So I just wanted to clear that up because I've seen a lot of people ask that question. And something else that I'm not sure if a lot of people know is that if you go to your disassembly bench right here and you click on weapons, you can see that there are a lot of weapons here that I have. Actually, all the weapons I have right here have this icon in the top right, and this means that this is dropped gear. It even says it when you hover over the weapon right there. So because this is dropped gear, it's something that you don't technically own, that you can't repair, that you have found out in the world, you can actually disassemble these for calibration blueprints. So if I were to go ahead and click on this, you can see that I will get a calibration blueprint, and this says that it can be used for a variety of different sniper rifles. So basically what it's doing, it's taking these calibration attributes from this weapon and it's allowing me to apply it to another weapon that I have. Now, to me, it is a little unclear of whether these calibration blueprints will transfer over to the next season. As we saw, gear blueprints with their stars will transfer over, but it didn't mention anything about calibration blueprints, so I'm not 100% sure if these will transfer over. So what I'm going to be doing and what I recommend to do is if there are any calibration blueprints that you just don't think you will ever use, maybe for that specific weapon type or maybe for just for those specific attributes, I would recommend going into your disassembly bench and you can actually disassemble these calibration blueprints for Stardust Source, which we know will carry over to the next season. So the different rarities of calibration blueprints will give you different amounts of Stardust Source. So I have a blue one here. This will give me 5 Stardust Source. If I choose purple, this will give me 8 Stardust Source, and then if I just choose a legendary one, that will give me 10 Stardust Source. So I would recommend going through and just disassembling any of these that you don't think you will ever use. Now, obviously, it's a little hard to know what the future weapon metas will be for future seasons, so for all we know, some of these weapons may end up being really good, or some of these attributes may end up being really good. But again, I'm not 100% sure if these will transfer over. So I would just recommend keeping some of them to see if they do transfer over, and then also disassembling the ones that you just personally don't think you're going to be using into Stardust Source, so you have a bit more for the next season. Now, something else that you can do at your base, and this is more of personal preference, along with a lot of other things that I'm mentioning in this list here, is go to your wish machine and take a look at these 4 games right here. So don't really look at Echoes from the Rift because this one has just a huge prize pool, but these ones that have actual specific rewards here, we're not sure if these specific games will make it into the wish machine for the next season. So if any of these specific rewards here are something that you care about and that you use, I would recommend maybe spending a little bit of star chrom to try to get some more fragments for them so that you can upgrade those blueprint tiers. For example, I use the boom boom, so I actually played this one quite a bit and I got my boom boom up to the blueprint tier of 3, so I'm pretty happy with that. I may end up spending a little bit more star chrom on that to see if I can get a little bit higher, but I would recommend if you do have some extra star chrom that you want to spend, go ahead to the wish machine now before the season resets and go ahead and upgrade any of these that you care about. And lastly, related to your base, one thing you should definitely do is go to all of the different settlements. So I'm at Blackfell right here, but go to all the different settlements and go to the vendors here that sell furniture formulas. And if I click on the formula tab here, you can see they even have a few wallpapers at this one, and they do have some furniture formulas as well. So as we know, furniture formulas will carry over to the next season. So I recommend going and purchasing all these if you can and learning those formulas so that you have them for the next season. And also, speaking of furniture, I recommend going and getting all the different toy models in the game. I actually do have a video going over all of the locations for models 1 through 9, so definitely check that out in the description down below if you're interested. And I also do have another great video about a solid furniture farm route that you can take where you have a higher chance to get furniture items just because there's a lot to loot. So I've also linked that guide down in the description below. And also furniture related, if you go to the season shop, you can head to the phase 1 tab right here, and there are furniture items that you can purchase, but it requires star chrom. So if you do want to sacrifice some of the star chrom you have to get these furniture formulas, you can carry these over to the next season, so feel free to do that if you would like to. Now getting into some more shop related things that I think you should care about. If I'm at Nisa right here and she's at all the different settlements, so if I interact with her, this is where you can spend sproutlets. So as we know, sproutlets will transfer over to the next season. So I would recommend doing the cargo scramble and highway pursuit events as much as you can so that you can build up the sproutlets for the next season. We're unsure if her shop will look the same for the next season, so I'm unsure if these things will still exist for the next season, but I do know that the mods here can be acquired in other ways, such as like through silos or monoliths. So if you don't want to spend any of your sproutlets on that, you can try to grind them in other ways, but if there's any specific legendary mods that you do want, it might be a good idea to purchase it here now, because we don't know if the shop is going to exist in the same way for future seasons. And then of course there is this vehicle skin. If you do have 10,000 sproutlets, you can go ahead and purchase this, as we don't know if this will exist in future seasons. But really the tip here is to do as many cargo scramble and highway pursuit events that you see on the map to try to build up your sproutlets so that you have them for the next season. And it's kind of a similar story for Severin here. This is the Stellar Planula shop, and you can get Stellar Planula from Morphic Hunts, Morphic Crates, side tasks, and then even hitting up some Rift Anchors in the world. All the Rift Anchors in the world will give you Stellar Planula, along with a few other methods as well, and this is a currency that will transfer over to the next season. However, I would recommend going and purchasing all of the weapon accessories that this shop has, because as we know, accessories will also transfer over to the next season. And then you also do have a seasonal limit of these Starcrom crates. You can pick up 8 of these Starcrom crates, so you'll need 800 of the Stellar Planula, and you'll be able to get some Starcrom there. It's actually 4,000 Starcrom, so it's not a bad amount of Starcrom. So I would recommend doing as many of these Morphic Hunts and Morphic Crates and side tasks and Rift Anchors that you can, so that you can get the maximum amount of Stellar Planula to bring over to the next season, but to also purchase the things that are available in this shop. And also, speaking of Starcrom crates, you're definitely going to want to save up 390,000 energy links for phase 6 of the server. And the reason for that is because if we actually go to the season shop here, you will see that there is a section called Starcrom crate. And this says that this can be purchased during seasonal phase 6. So there are a bunch of different Starcrom crates here that total to 390,000 energy links. And this will net you a total of 4,000 Starcrom. So in addition to those Severin crates, and then also the 4,000 Starcrom here, you can actually just outright buy a weapon at the Wish Machine if you choose to, because that will total 8,000 Starcrom, or you can go ahead and save it for the next season. So even though energy links do get wiped, I would recommend trying to grind to get 390,000 energy links so you can buy all of these crates once phase 6 happens. Now there are a bunch of different ways that you can get energy links. You can do silos, you can do boss runs, you can do the world events, you can sell things like silver and gold if you have that specialization. There's a ton of different ways to make energy links, so I'm not going to go into every single method for that, but I would recommend trying to get to that 390,000 mark so you can purchase all of these different crates when the time comes. And speaking of the season shop, you're going to want to make sure that you get as many of these Mitsuko's marks as possible so that you can purchase all of the items that are available in the season shop with Mitsuko's marks. Now I know there is this loot crate here that a lot of people have kind of had an issue with because they're not getting exactly what they want. So I don't know if I would dump a lot of the Mitsuko's marks into this, because again, these will transfer over to the next season and we're not 100% sure what will be available in the next season for that. But at least buying this Manibus statue and these exclusive name cards, if you do like them, I think is a good idea. Now, of course, you can get these Mitsuko's marks in a multitude of ways. The main way is, of course, getting them through these different challenges that you have for each phase of the season. You can also go ahead into the page shop. So if I head over to the page shop here, whoops, that's not the page shop. If I go to the page shop here, you can see that you can purchase every week 50 Mitsuko's marks for 1 energy link. So I actually haven't done that yet, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. You can open this up in your inventory and get 50 Mitsuko's mark. I don't know why it just said 500 there when I hovered over it, but it's actually 50. And then also, if you do have the Meta Pass, you accumulate 10 Mitsuko's marks a day. So I have 40 right here, so I can just go ahead and claim that. So make sure you're going and claiming this. I honestly did not realize that this was accumulating. I had like 200 or 300 Mitsuko's marks that I had not claimed yet. So make sure you do that as well to get those marks. And also, speaking of the shop, make sure that you are spending these silver keys that you earn either from the free tier or the paid tier in the Battle Pass shop. You can purchase all of these things except for one of the hairstyles. It depends on what type of character you have, but make sure you go in and purchase all of these things with your silver keys, as I don't believe the silver keys will transfer over to the next season, but I'm not 100% sure on that. And also, another shop that you should care about is the Warband shop. So if you're in a Warband, you can make weekly donations of items and you will get some currency for it. So I actually don't have I don't have mine capped out for the week right now. So if I click on donate here, I'm just going to donate 10 platinum crystals and I will get 710 of these Warband credits. So I'm going to do that. Now I have 1400 and we can head over to the Warband shop here. You can purchase controllers through this, which is great during the season, but again, not sure if they're going to transfer to the next season. So if you do want to purchase anything else here that you can use these Warband credits for, some of these things require stardust source, but if you do want to purchase things like activators or advanced activators, that could be a good idea, because we do know that medicine and medicine related things will transfer over to the next season. And of course, if you hit F3 on your keyboard, it'll bring up the events tab here. So making sure that you're going into all these events and claiming these rewards and opening up these crates so that you have them is a good idea, because you do get some cosmetics through this, as well as getting some cosmetic tokens. So you can use these cosmetic tokens in the regular paid shop. If you go to the other tab, there is a section here for redeem cosmetic tokens, and you can get different furniture items and cosmetic items from this. So make sure you go ahead and utilize those cosmetic tokens when you get them. And also making sure you're going to the other event tabs here in the event screen. I believe the Twitch drops have ended already, so if you didn't get these, I don't think you can get them anymore, but I could be wrong on that. And then making sure you're going to the regular event tab here. Now, these astral duelets, you get 20 of these every day at 6 a.m. So I am actually maxed out on these right now. But I know some of the items that you do get from this are technically bound to your character. So I'm unsure if those will transfer to the next season, because they're kind of in a different category. They won't even stack with similar items. So if I got these sanity gummies, for example, they won't stack with other sanity gummies I have in my inventory. So I'm not sure if these astral duelet items will carry over. But I would recommend at least linking your Discord so you can get that extra star crom for the next season, and then going and liking Once Human if you want to on all these different social platforms so you can get those star crom rewards. All right, so now let's talk about exploration related things that I think that you should do before the season wraps up. So first off, of course, you do have your weekly commission. So if you're not at level 50 yet, this is a great way to get a bunch of XP. You can summon V here by holding tab and then go to view commissions. And I actually just had these reset. So by getting these commissions and completing them, you can see you get a ton of XP. And even though energy links will be wiped at the end of the season, this is also another great way to get some energy links so that you can try to buy those star crom crates in the season shop. And then you also do get Staroid, which you use to launch the Prime Wars on the map if you're on a PvE server. So I'm unsure if this is going to be something that transfers to the next season, but I would say these are just still good to do anyway, so that you get as much energy links as you can, so you can get those star crom crates. And of course, you also want to go ahead and hit J on your keyboard and make sure you have all of these journeys completed. As a reminder, you're able to claim rewards from each individual journey that you complete, as well as the category of journey here. And this is really what matters, because you're going to be getting some star crom for every category of journeys that you complete. It's not a lot of star crom, but it's a good way to try to maximize your star crom output before the season ends. So make sure you're going through all these journeys and completing all these tasks so that you can get these star crom. And one thing you're going to want to make sure that you do is go to every area that you have not gotten a mystical crate or a rift anchor and get those. Now, the reason you want the rift anchors is because that will give you the stellar planula currency that you can use at that shop, and that will transfer over to the next season. And obviously the reason you want the mystical crates is because there's gear in there. There's gear blueprints that you can get in there. So make sure that you're getting all of those, and also pick up the weapon and armor crates as well, and complete all the other objectives if you would like to. Now, an easy way to find where all of these mystical crates are as well is using a tool like Map Genie. I'll link this down in the description below. I know there's a lot of other maps out there. I just like using Map Genie because it's just easier for me to use. So what you can do on the Map Genie site is you can hide all the pins and you can just choose Mystical Crate, and then you can go to each area and make sure that you click on each Mystical Crate icon, and it will tell you exactly where it is. Now, I also recommend doing this for recipes. So your food recipes, you can go ahead and click recipe here. Now, I don't know if everything is 100% accurate on this map because I know there was still some beta information here, but everything that I have tried has been accurate so far. So I would recommend choosing the recipe option as well, getting all those food recipes all along the map. And then they even have an option for morphic crates here as well. So making sure you're going and doing that because those will give you some stellar planula as well as some other resources. And then you can transfer that stellar planula currency to the next season. And then you can, of course, also toggle on accessories here, and then you can go and gather all the accessories that you can across the map. Again, not 100% sure if this is fully accurate, but from what I have found, it seems to be pretty accurate or pretty close. Also, you can toggle on the blueprint option here, and I recommend going to the dock up in the northwest side because you can purchase 2 different melee weapon blueprints from there, and I recommend going and doing that as soon as you can. And of course, you also want to go to your season goals here and make sure that you complete all of these season goals in every category in order to maximize your Mitsuko mark output because again, these will carry over to the next season. You also do get some pretty cool rewards, such as this season honor right here, where if you go to season mark, you can unlock this kind of first 1-star butterfly emissary that unlocks a few other items, including this little furniture item that you can use in your Eternaland Island and also at your regular base if you would like to. So I recommend going and completing all the season goals that you can before the season resets. And this is also a great way to maximize your Starcrom output because it gives you a good amount of Starcrom as you complete these season goals. Also, if you are on a PvE server, I recommend going and completing all the Prime Wars on the map at least once. There are easy Prime Wars, hard Prime Wars, Pro Prime Wars, and then there will be a Nightmare Prime War as well in the next phase. So I recommend completing all of them at least once because you do get Starcrom when you can do your first completion. So if you see a Prime War going on that you have access to, I would definitely recommend going and doing it if you haven't done it already. Now, in order to get the different passes to the Prime Wars, if I actually go into my backpack here under the special tab, you can see I have a hard pass right here as well as the pro pass. You need to get the tier 3 chest for the Prime War. So on the easy Prime Wars, I had to get enough points for a tier 3 chest, and then I was able to get the Frontier Pass for the hard Prime Wars, so that gives you access to the hard ones. Then the same goes for the hard Prime Wars. You have to get a tier 3 chest from those in order to get the Pro Pass for the Pro Prime Wars, and then I imagine getting the tier 3 chest for the Pro Prime Wars will give you a Frontier Pass for the Nightmare difficulty. So just as an FYI, that's how you can get those. I haven't done a lot of Prime Wars, so if there's any information I got wrong there, let me know in the comments below. But I recommend at least trying to do all of them once so you get the Starcrom for them. And because we know mods will transfer over to the next season, I'll link this website down in the description below, but I would recommend going and getting any mods that you really do care about. This will give you a list of all the mods and where you have a chance to get them, whether it's a silo or whether it's a monolith. So make sure you get all the mods with the, your favorite roles on them before the season ends, and those will transfer over to the next season. I would also recommend going and using all of your permits at the workshop defenses across the map. So you can get these permits through weapon and gear crates, and depending on the level of area that you're in, it will determine the level of permit that you get. But you can get a few different resources as well as 2 different deviations by doing the workshop defenses, and most notably you can get acid and stardust source by doing these workshop defenses. So if you don't know where they are, you can go to your map. You can actually hit X. It will give you a huge list right here of everything that's on the map. And then there will be all the different workshop defense locations here. So you can go there, place those permits in there, do waves of enemies, and then get those rewards at the end. So I would make sure to exhaust all of your permits, as we don't know if that's something that's going to be transferred over to the next season. I imagine they won't be, since it wasn't explicitly said in that list. So I would go through and try to use all the permits that you have. And also, I do recommend using these specialization cleaners if you would like to. Basically, it will help you reset a mimetic specialization, and you can only use up to 5 of these per season. So if you have any specializations you don't like, I'd recommend to use these sooner than later so that you can get a specialization that you do like. And as for specific materials that you should be grinding for the next season, since we don't know every type of material that can transfer over, I'll just make a few suggestions. I do think barreled premium fuel is important to try to get more of so that you can have it for the next season and kind of get a little bit of a head start, especially with the Prime Wars. And then also acid is obviously important, not as hard to get as some of the other materials, but I do think it's important to at least have some of it so that you can transfer it over to Eternaland. Then of course your stardust source is important. I would recommend trying to grind for that. And then even things like your eclipse cortexes, especially the level 3 ones, I think that's important to try to grind for to bring over to the next season so that you can get started with the maximum Starcrom output for the Stardust Resonator events. And then of course your crystals, your different type of crystals could be important because that's used for crafting, obviously. So transferring those over and getting as many of those that you can is definitely going to be important. And lastly, I just quickly want to talk about Eternaland and maybe some things that you should focus on. I definitely think selling things to get astral sand will be important. So a few things that I think are good to sell are definitely pickaxes. If I click on sell right here, if I actually sell my tungsten pickaxe right here, it's going to give me 5,000 astral sand. I think that is a great option for selling. And then you can also sell deviations. So if you have any lower level deviations that you just don't care about, maybe it's a skill rating of 1, activity rating of 1, kind of like this one right here, you can just sell that for 500 astral sand. I would just make sure you have at least one of these deviations that you do like so you don't sell all of them by accident. And another thing that's really easy to make and great for selling is actually corn ale. You can sell 1 corn ale for 2,000 astral sand. Corn ale is super easy to make. All you need is corn and purified water in your fermenting barrel, and then you can just go ahead and sell a bunch of these. So that is a really easy one to sell and kind of build up your astral sand. If you have any other suggestions for what is really great to sell for astral sand, definitely leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear about it. And then, of course, in Eternaland, you also sort of have this weekly commission system, but they're called orders. So I'd recommend doing as many of these as you can. All it requires is delivering certain things. So you can see like honeysuckle and aloe, certain types of fish, and you will get astral sand as well as astriolite. For those that don't know, astriolite is basically used as a currency for decor on your island. So things like trees and rocks that you want to decorate your island with, you use astriolite for that. And then building like normal things such as facilities and walls, that uses astral sand. Now, I'm not 100% sure if astral sand and astriolite will carry over to the next season. I imagine it will, although when you do hover over these things, it does say Eternaland outputs cannot be carried over to the new season. I don't think that's referring to the currency itself. I could be wrong, but I know they've said that Eternaland does not wipe, so I would imagine that the currencies in Eternaland also don't wipe. And yeah, that's pretty much my whole prep list. It's really just about maximizing your currencies in the game, as well as getting the gear that you specifically care about that you want to carry over into the next season. So if this video did end up helping you out, definitely drop a like and subscribe down below. It took me a while to put this together, so I really appreciate all your support. And I just can't thank you enough for watching and all the support on my Once Human content. I really do appreciate it. I have been streaming Once Human as well over on my Twitch channel and on YouTube. I've seen a lot of you guys pop into the chat, so it's been great to see you. So feel free to follow me over on Twitch if you would like to. But if not, like I said, I do stream also on YouTube at the same time. But thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.